Well, to better understand the reality of the U.S. economy in this race for the White House, I'm joined by Todd Belt. Todd is a professor and director of the Political Management Program at George Washington University. Thank you for joining me.
Wonderful to be with you.
So what did you see as the biggest takeaways in Trump's economic message, and how do they match the needs of most Americans?
Well, he didn't give a lot to us in terms of any policy specifics last night, so it's pretty difficult to say. I don't know what the president has planned between now and Election Day. He did try to issue his executive order, but a lot of the money that he got out of that came from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and of course they're going to need what they have for the storm that just blew through. It's going to be difficult for him to try to find more in the budget. He may need to work with Congress to get some more money to drop on the economy, because I think that the money that has been pushed into the economy has been one of the things that has provided some of that safety net for the economy, so it hasn't been quite as bad as it could be.
And we did see that the Trump administration was pushing the economy and businesses to reopen ahead of the CDC's recommendations, and despite a surge in cases. How has that push to reopen impacted the economic recovery?
Oh, well, it's absolutely slowing it down. We see cases firing up in places that opened up too early, especially in those states. And it's important to realize that a lot of the job loss and a lot of the economic industries that were affected by this were tourism and restaurants and things like that. And so they're still having difficulty. Restaurants are not at capacity. A lot of shops are not at capacity. And it's going to take some time for these industries to build back. They're what we call lagging sectors, where people really need to get some money in their bank accounts before they can start spending money on nice meals out and vacations and the like.
Now, it's an interesting contrast to the optimism on Wall Street. And according to Pew Research, about 14% of Americans are directly invested in individual stocks, but about 52% when you factor in the 401k retirement plans. Right. So in light of that, just how important are these stock market gains and losses for Americans right now?
Well, stock market gains are not terribly important for average Americans, especially those who are at risk of unemployment or wage cuts in the industries that have really taken a hit. I'm in the education industry, and we're looking at some real problems coming ahead for the next academic year. But for some reason, people still think of it as a valuable indicator of the overall health of the economy, which is just false. The stock market is not an indicator of the overall health of the economy. It's an indicator of corporate profitability, which is often at odds with the employment and financial well-being of workers. So there's a lot more to it there.
Now, obviously, President Trump touts himself as a pro-business president, but during his term, he's erected trade barriers, he's eased prudential standards for banks, and even attacked the Fed for policy not to his liking. So talk about the precedents that he's breaking and setting, not just for his next term potentially, or the next president.
Well, it's certainly not new for President Trump to break precedents. He does it in every sort of way, but particularly on the economy, which we know is a big issue for Republicans. The big question is, what is the future of the Republican Party? Do they return to economic orthodoxy and neoliberal free trade agenda, or do they take this Trump roadmap? Now, Trump has used the trade wars and immigration to activate the economic anxieties of a number of Americans, particularly in the Midwest and the suburbs, and that actually helped him get the presidency. Do the Republicans want to keep going down this road, or do they want to go back to that post-mortem that they gave to us back in 2012 when they said, we have to play a different game now. We have to reach out to minorities because of the demographic changes that are going on in America. So it's going to depend on whether or not President Trump wins re-election, and it's going to depend upon who's waiting in the wings as the next Republican standard bearer and where they want to take the party.
So then, given those economic anxieties that are being stoked, what sort of economic measures do you expect from Trump between now and Election Day?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little difficult to say because there's not a whole lot of money out there. He might try to play some shell games and move some money around like he did to fund the building of the wall. But like I said, he got his last money from FEMA. I think he's going to have to play nice with Congress. I think he's going to have to play ball if he wants to get another wave of stimulus into the economy to prop it up and provide that sort of safety net before the election.
So just quickly then, in terms of the so-called October surprise, a term in U.S. politics that refers to news timed close enough to a November election to potentially swing it, anything you're keeping an eye on?
Well, certainly the big one is any sort of anything to do with the virus that could help people recover quickly, or if we're able to get some sort of vaccine. Any news on that front could really help the president. Oftentimes we think of October surprises as being international in nature, but the president has shown that he's not likely to start saber rattling when he doesn't need to. So I think we should look at COVID as for an area for that.